let's start from the basic, the first question. What is creativity? Has it always been a part of human existence?
That's a very good question. Thank you. So creativity is the ability to generate ideas and concepts. That's the definition. That's the academic definition of creativity. As you can see, there is no mention of creative class here, of creative people. So it means that creativity as a term doesn't limit people ready to create. So creators, everyone can be a creator. Regarding the second part of your question about the history, of course, the history of mankind shows that creation always helped mankind to evolve, to overcome difficulties, to move from one era to another. In academic practice, anthropologists define 5 eras of human existence, and they all have a touch of creativity. I'll try to be brief. First of all, 70,000 years ago, we had the so-called hunters and gatherers era. That brought us speech. That brought us the basis of language. So, in terms of creativity, the hunters and gatherers era gave us the cave drawings. What is now called infographics. Yes, the simplified drawings. So today's designers are using that experience of simplified drawings that reduces our time consumption. So was that creative? Yes. 10,000 years ago, the agricultural era started. After language, it brought us writing. So the creative palette expanded from drawing to writing. Writings not only what people saw, but what they could also imagine. I believe I'm not sounding like Kamala Harris now. So what could have been seen and what could have been imagined? Yes. So after the agricultural era, the next significant shift was the industrial era, which started in the beginning of the 16th century and lasted till the end of 19th century. So that brought machinery. People started communicating with each others through machines, through industry. In terms of creativity, it gave the copy machine, the first press for books. Yes, and the artists were the first ones who used that, like Albrecht Dürer, a famous painter. So he used the print machine not only to make fakes and copies. Yes, he introduced lithography to the creative palette of the world art history. After Industrial Revolution, there was the Information Revolution, which started in the very end of 19th century. Telegraph, telephone, then radio, TV, computers. So it lasted till the end of the 20th century. And again, who was the first company besides the governmental offices who started using telephone and telegraph? Sotheby's and Christie's, the auction houses. So by means of that tech, they communicated with people, with their clients. And Hungarian artist Laszlo Mahoy-Nagy in early 2020s, he introduced, who has previously heard that name, Mahoy-Nagy, the guy who introduced telephone pictures. He was sitting in one place, in one city, and made a call. So he called his artistic student. There were assistants, and his artistic student, he was just saying take blue, take red, take white, and put it to the right, to the left of the canvas. So he just wanted to experiment how the telephone will change his idea, how his idea will be transferred through the technical stuff, technical issues, and how it differs from AI, from communication between a person like a programmer and the AI algorithm today. And now academics say that we live in the era of creativity, in the creative era that has started with the massive adoption of internet in the end of the 20th century. But I personally call that not creative era, but co-creative era, because internet gave us communication, brought us communication, free communication through social networks, and now the AI possibilities, they just invite another type of co-creator, which is the AI algorithm. So we are now living in a creative era that has started like 25 years ago, and our co-creators are like our colleagues from all over the world, AI, and hopefully later on some space invaders. As we can see, the term creativity, again, it doesn't contain the creative class, like artists, architects. Everyone can be a creator. And as you could see from my short, I believe it was quite short, timeline, the artists, they were not the inventors of the next stages. They were, better say, the early adopters. Of course, there were some geniuses like Leonardo da Vinci who created both fantastic artworks and invented a lot of stuff, from submarine to helicopter. But that's why he's so unique.
Many people confuse two terms, creativity and innovation. What's the difference between them, and why do you think people confuse them so often?
It's a fantastic question. Many people, they confuse creativity and innovation. Many people think that they are synonyms. They are not. Better say they are two stages of one process. As we said, creativity is the ability to produce ideas in order to see later on if it could potentially generate profit and value towards the society, government, everyone who is in charge of that request. But innovation is the process of implementation of that creative findings. You can think of creativity and innovation as the legislative and executive systems, like the parliament and the government. Parliament creates the laws and the government implements them into our life. Let's take Switzerland. Switzerland, for many years, for 10 years in a row, Switzerland is being granted with the title the most innovative country. Why are they so innovative? Why 25% of creative tech startups from Switzerland, they come from the prototype stage to exit? That's fantastic. 3% in general startup world are exiting. 25% of creative tech Swiss startups, because they can define, they can separate creativity and innovation. So what does it mean? They call a special group of people to create something, to create ideas. Then they pay them, sign the contracts to take the IP, intellectual property, and then they invite another group of people to implement that. I believe that wouldn't be offensive to anyone, but Switzerland also defines that people for their nationality. So as soon as Swiss people are very good in accounting and analyzing, including Swiss Jewish, they're like holding them for the second part. But in Switzerland, there are 8% of Swiss population are immigrants. So they're calling immigrants from Eastern Europe, from India, from China, from whatever, and they generate ideas. Then they give that ideas to the second group of people, who are called innovators. Of course, all the applauses, all the benefits, like social benefits, they are received by innovators. But that's why they are successful. That's why they built the Hadron Collider and many, many more. One big mistake, yes, is sometimes the person who initiates something, who wants to create something, they are so excited with the results of the creative team. They say, "Oh, you're so great! You created such a great idea. We'll let you implement it into life." In 90% of cases, it fails. So you have to separate those groups.
So the creative economy often is a key driver of global global economy. Why is it so attractive in your opinion?
Many people think that creative economy is like when you invite creative people to rule or to guide or to be involved into some actions or management of, if you invite them to manage the existing global economy, and that part of disaster calls creative economy. No. So creative economy is a specific part of the global economy which consists of 13 subsectors or creative industries. Let us enumerate them all. So architecture, art, advertising, design, fashion, music, cinema, hospitality and events. What else? Performing arts, literature, gaming, TV and radio, which also encompasses broadcasting. And the last one is media. So 13 different segments, 13 different industries. Why is it so attractive? Because it shows a very high growth rate. Nowadays, the total annual turnover of the global creative economy is like it bounces between 2.3 and 2.6, depending on the company who makes those estimates, trillion. So it's a fantastic industry. And when I say that it has a high potential, it has a high growth rate, it means that nowadays that amount equals to 3.2% of the world GDP. And according to the estimates and forecasts of both Deloitte and United Nations Organization, by 2030, that amount, that percentage, 3.2, will be increased up to 10%. So creative economy is one of the highest developed economies, though it, as we said, consists of 13 different layers. We have to understand that the term creative economy, it was introduced only in 2001, when the book by Hawkins called Creative Economy, a simple name. Before this book, those segments, there was no one who could unite them. Some specialists were trying to unite them, like taking into consideration some other metrics like intellectual property or some art-related issues. But he didn't admit in this book the role of the creative class. So 1 year later, in 2002, Richard Florida, he published a book called The Creative Class. And that study combines the previous book and adds some research which says that this is the creative class which gives birth to the most valuable ideas. Like, not everyone can be a creator. I mean, like, everyone can be a creator, but people with creative education, artists, designers, architects, musicians, they can produce the ideas that can bring the real value in the most cases. And nowadays, creative industry involves 50 million of employers, which is 7% of the world market of employment. 7%. So that's why it's so attractive. But we should admit that a lot of people, like politicians, they are using the term creative or creative economy to boost their own ratings, to boost investments in their in the regions or in the spheres. And sometimes one can find very little creative tracks there. So we shouldn't focus on that, and we should what we should focus on is, for instance, on the ability of creative economy to overcome crisis. For instance, creativity can overcome, and it showed the proof of concept in fighting with overconsumption. The advertising market is overloaded with very similar advertising banners. So creative people are invited to create some brand new advertising. Also, when the apparel market was also experienced overconsumption, artists and designers and writers, songwriters were invited by, for instance, H&M, and they created a brilliant advertising campaign which showed everyone that they should get rid of their useless stuff and so on. So creativity helps when the crises are striking the world, as it always been during the evolution period.
For those who are unfamiliar with the term creative tech, can you describe in 5 simple sentences what is it?
I'll do my best. Don't laugh, please. Yes. Okay. I would describe creative tech as the intersection of 3 main drivers: creative class, technology, and venture capital. Which means that creative tech is the ecosystem of these innovative startups, which can work with the existence of those 3 flywheels. If we exclude venture capital and leave creativity and tech alone, it won't be funded. It will not give birth, those ideas will not be taken to life. If we exclude tech, we'll receive another fintech startup. If we exclude art or creativity, if we exclude tech, we'll receive another project, not a startup, because without tech, without innovation, it will be a project, not a startup. Startup is a company which wants to profiteer from realizing the innovative idea. Without being profit-oriented, just innovative idea and a company, it's a project with limited timing of existence. Without the innovative idea is a real business, like a gallery, a film production, a nail salon, a pizza restaurant. There are a lot of great pizza restaurants, but it can't be called a startup. So, do you know where the first AI, we can say the first AI startup could have been emerged, but it didn't happen. But let's say the first attempt of creating the algorithm which could draw, it was, who has ideas? Which
the name of the algorithm?
The name, yeah. You can also say the name. The name is very simple. It's the name of the brother of Moses. If you're Jewish, you can say the name of the brother of Moses.
Aaron?
Aaron?
Yes. Aaron. Yeah, it was back in 1965. It was a breakthrough, but we don't know about it. We're now fond of Midjourney and OpenAI products, DALL-E and others. We don't know about Aaron too much. Why? Because there was creativity and there was tech, but there was no venture capital at that time. Because all the venture interest was towards space industry. The space war between the US and the USSR started, so all the capital went there. So no one wanted to fund that sphere. So that's why it took 55 years for AI in creative tech to evolve.
Can you tell us more about the history of creativity?
I started linking creative tech to venture capital and to startups. It's obvious that creative tech couldn't emerge earlier than the term startups emerged. So as soon as startups as a term were first introduced in the beginning of the 90s, we should count from there. And 1990 was the year when Adobe introduced Photoshop and Illustrator, the first software which allowed creative class to make digital art. At that time it wasn't called digital art, it was called computer art. But since 1990, the creative tech era began as we know it. So later on there were a lot of other startups. Let's just, for instance, concentrate on art tech. Artsy, Saatchi Art, the first platform for artists that was introduced in 2006. Artsy was the first complex platform. Ask 10 persons what is Artsy about, you'll receive 10 different replies. They are online auction house, they are a marketplace, they are doing something for collectors, they are art advisory, they are auction database, they are newsmakers. That's why they can't find their market fit. That was the generation of so-called glass breakers. The next generation of art tech startups emerged in 2000 when the blockchain was introduced, massively introduced in 2016. So from that time we have the expansion of Web3 art and tech startups, and today's unicorns like OpenSea, SuperRare. They emerged in 2017 when no one knew about the NFT, when the NFT term wasn't introduced yet. Now we have the expansion of AI in creative tech startups, and we have the examples of Midjourney, for instance, the company which is still bootstrapping. So they do not accept any money from any investor because they are self-sustainable, they are profitable. They used their own funds, around 600,000, to build the product, and they have 15 million of active users, even more than OpenAI has with DALL-E pre-installed in ChatGPT, with 10 billion of investment. So one of the interesting features of the startup world and creative tech in particular is that the level of investment doesn't reflect the attitude of the audience, doesn't reflect the metrics, the measurements, the KPIs. For instance, the school like the online music school called The Studio, they received $50 million 2 years ago, but all of that amount they started using it to leverage AI. So they made a big bet on AI, and last month, 2 months ago, they released a brand new school for musicians where online AI tutors educate in creating digital music. So now we're experiencing that slice of the pie, which is called AI expansion.
What's your personal story entering into the creative tech?
Thank you for this question. I'll try to be short. I have several educations starting from theatrical management and cinema and TV production, and my last third education was art economics at Sotheby's Institute of Art, New York. So it means that my education covers 4 of 13 slices of creative industries. But after graduating from Sotheby's, I understood that I have my own idea. I want to bring it into life. That was the index for art collectors who should have the opportunity to track the capitalization of their collection in real time. So I started visiting investors, and what I heard from them, I heard a question like, have you passed an accelerator? Have you passed an accelerator? I said, hang on. I went to tech accelerators and they said, exclude art, and then just create another index for Wall Street, for instance, because the market is blooming there. I went to art accelerators at big museums and they said, exclude tech and and all financial expectations. You'll be just using grants till the end of your life. I said, hang on. And that's how we created the first vertical art tech accelerator for such losers as I had been. And that was 5 years ago. Since that, we moved from direct art tech to creative tech. We established our small venture fund. We established our twice a year we're publishing reports on the investments in creative tech industry.
Very impressive.
Globally. Thank you. Did you see
100 pages?
Yeah, the number of pages is, as you know, I can be short. So starting this year, we implemented. We started in another direction, venture studio or venture company builder. So we started initiating startups ourselves, becoming the founders, the co-founders of. It's a mixture of founders' experience and the venture fund. So you just hire co-founders, and the company becomes the founder itself. Yeah, so that was my journey from art tech to creative tech. But my biggest achievement, I started from Sotheby's Institute of Art, and now I'm lecturing there on creative entrepreneurship. So that means to me much more than venture activity and so on. Don't tell my startups about it, but yeah.
Can keep secrets.
Sure.
What are some examples of the most successful art and tech startups over past 2 decades?
Successful. First of all, we should understand what does success mean in terms of startups. So how is measured? So there are at least 3 measures of startup success. Cumulative investments, single round investments, and exit. Acquisition. If I tell you the name Huayacán Manuel, what does it tell you?
Not much.
This is the most successful art tech startup in terms of cumulative investments. They received nearly 1 billion in total investments through 7 investment rounds. This is an app which allows selling comic books created by artists in China. In terms of 1 round investments, the most successful art tech startup is Yuga Labs. Yuga Labs, it belongs to the... by the way, I believe you know that all the startups belong to one of the 4 chains, links of the value chain, namely production, trade, management, analytics. Because every asset should be like the life cycle of the asset. Every asset should be produced, then traded, then in between trade, purchase and sale, it should be managed well. And then it should be analyzed, and the trading signals sent to other collectors. For instance, when we speak about art or some creative assets. So Yuga Labs belongs to the production section, the most influential, the biggest, the top link of the value chain of art tech and creative tech. You know Bored Apes Yacht Club, yeah? So they received 450 million of investment during 1 single round back in 2022. And their first action was a strategic purchase of CryptoPunks. So they purchased another production company called Lavro Labs, who owned the IP, all the intellectual property on the CryptoPunk collection. So they became the monopolists in the high-end NFT market. Yet, half a year ago, March, the CEO of Yuga Labs said, we are very sorry, we have to rethink of our promotional strategy, we have to rethink of what will be NFT 2.0, how to implement more utilities. We're sorry to say, but we are brave enough to say we failed with the initial concept. The good news, the CEO of Yuga Labs said that we haven't spent even half of 450 million, so there is something left, but we put it on hold, and we are now trying to rethink the revitalization strategy of Web3 assets. So can it be called the most successful startup? In terms of one round investment, yes. In terms of go-to-market strategy and failure, probably not yet. In terms of their bravery to say to their customers, we failed, probably they are one of the few startups who can allow themselves to tell that, because they really care about their community. The most successful acquisition, the most successful exit was made by Saatchi Art, the platform for young creators. As part of Leaf Group, it was sold to Graham Holdings in 2021 for $323 million. Another big acquisition was made by the Winklevoss twins, by their platform Gemini. They purchased the NFT marketplace Nifty Gateway for 92 million in 2019, where no one believed in NFTs. So they acted like a strategist, and then they received the positive financial feedback from that. My colleague Boris Pevsner, he exited with his startup from the management value chain link. It was called Collectrum. Collectrum was a collection management system for art collectors. And after 5 years of existence, Boris sold it to Christie's for 17.5 million. What did Christie's did the next day after that purchase? They closed the startup. They took the database of those collectors and started sending them advertising, like come to Christie's and sell your Rothko, your Basquiat or Picasso. And they also hired the guy, the CTO, Chief Technical Officer from that startup, Ukrainian guy, by the way, Ukrainian Jewish guy. That's why when a strategist acquires a startup, it doesn't mean that he or she preserves the team and the founder receives the money, and can it be measured as a success from the financial point of view? Yes. But he lost his team, he lost his CTO, and he lost the database of the collectors, because the collectors were not that enthusiastic in responding to Christie's appeal to come to them, because they thought that someone just ruined their privacy, and they went to Sotheby's. So that was a successful acquisition for the founder, but not that one successful acquisition for the strategist. The exit rate of art tech startups is 8% of 10. 8% of 10. Like in general, as we said in the beginning of our meeting, it's 3% of 10. General fintech and other space tech, 3% of 10. 3 of 100. Yes, and here we have 8 of 100.
Speaking about art and tech sector, how large the art and tech sector today, and what does it encompass?
Okay, as I started saying, it encompasses more than 1,000 of art tech startups, namely 1145. It's 1,145 startups in the public domain, which means in the public databases of Crunchbase or PitchBook or Dealroom Co. From the angel stage to Series K stage. So more than 1,000 of startups. Before startups, I mean from the idea to prototype stage, they are not founders, they are still entrepreneurs. And we estimate that market as for around 4,000 ideas. 4,000 ideas, but only 10% of those ideas come up with a prototype. In comparison with the general startup or fintech, let's take fintech, Bay Area, Stanford, 40% come from the idea to prototype. In creative tech, and namely art tech, only 10% come from the idea to prototype. Why does it happen? Because creative people are very sensitive. And once they generate an idea, they believe in it. But once being told that this idea is not demand focus, it's supply focus, because once they create an idea, they believe that this idea is as genius as they are. That's why they do not accept criticism. But those ideas, they just need a small fixing. That's why we created an accelerator for such startups, because we understand that those ideas are are really genius. You just have to change the vector. And if someone needs the amount of investment, okay, so more than 8.5 billion have been invested in this industry since 1987. Is it a large amount of investment or not? Compared to AI, that's nothing. Compared to medtech, that's nothing. But compared to fashion, it's quite competitive numbers.
So I want to ask you more about practical side. For those who just entering to creative area, the common question how we can benefit from it. Is it any opportunities for investing? Or is it just primarily a path for self-improvement?
How can one benefit from creative tech market? If you go to the stock market, you can't find the stock which is named creative tech or creative industries. You can buy Tesla, you can buy Microsoft stocks, but you can find the stock creative. So you can't invest in the stocks of creative tech. So the next question is, okay, I can't find this creative industry stock. Should I invest into assets, creative assets, or creative equities? What does it mean? Creative assets are artworks, some intellectual property, so tangible or intangible assets, or you can invest into more intangible creative assets like into movie production or into some stage production, performing arts production, musical production, into the career of the creative artist. This is assets. If you want to invest into equity, the next question rises if you want to invest into equity of real business, of creative industries, or into a startup, into creative tech, which is more volatile market, which is more risky, but it generates more profit and more preferable by the investors who are willing to implement the high-risk strategy. Regarding the high volatile investments, you should look at the startups of creative tech. So you have like four different ways of opportunities. If it's assets, tangible or intangible, if it's equity, real business, or risky startup business, which is actually the topic of our today's discussion. For instance, our venture fund invests in high-risky AI in creative tech startups starting from 2024. We're focusing on AI in creative tech. But the only thing I'd like you to remember, there is one phrase which is jumping from one article to another, like $1 invested in creative economy gives a $2.5 return. I always wanted to look into the face of the person who wrote it, to understand based on what info did he come up with this statement, who invested, in what, in the creative industry. I mean, then I found the origin of this phrase. It was in the 2019 report by the World Trade Organization, and that was based on the research of the governments who invested governmental funds into the into creative industry of their particular countries. So in terms of 2.5 or plus 100% return, they meant that the taxes plus what the tourists to that creative cities will spend, that amounts to that like $2.5 with only one invested. In fact, it could be much more and of course much less, because it's creative and creativity is unpredictable.
Speaking about future, what are the main trends in the creative tech for 2024, 2025?
Let's speak about the trends. First of all, we are living in the era of AI expansion, and we expect more startups in this industry. But the good news is that, unlike the NFT, during the NFT hype, 90% of the classic creative art startups, they started implementing blockchain technologies and started moving to NFTs without any clue why do they need it. Not only to impress their investors, to gain the capitalization. So, and the market was overloaded with marketplaces, which didn't have, so with the supply, but without any demand and repeat sales volume. So with AI startups, we see the opposite attitude. Only 17% of creative tech startups are leveraging AI. Though they know that it's much easier to receive money if you have some AI attitude at the moment during the bear market, but only 17% of them leveraging AI. This is good news, and 75% of those startups using AI in their everyday work in managing their startup. So they have already started exploring AI, but they're not, forgive me, silly as they had been during the NFT hype, just to move there without any clue. So we expect that the AI will continue emerging naturally. The second trend, it's called phygital. After pandemic, after years spent in helmets, who has ever worn the 3D helmet? Yeah, it's a disaster. When we are asked when the VR helmets will have its mass adoption, we always reply until the chips will be implemented into brain, so the person shouldn't wear anything. Because if we look at the VR helmets, we'll remember the experiments of South Korean artist Namjoon Paik, who put the TV into the motorcycle helmet and spent 10 minutes in late 60s and then spent several days in a hospital. So, and even that time, the humanity, the creative forces should have understood why it wouldn't work. That's why phygital is the next trend. What do I mean saying phygital? Everyone was expecting the emergence of Web3. Metaverse, cryptocurrency, blockchain, AI. It didn't happen. It was like a false start. The digital community of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they started missing the tactile element. That's why they started preferring buying NFTs at physical art fairs. Google Labs started creating in the Gulf field in Miami. In 2023 to 2024, we see more and more startups, creative tech startups, which use physical sticks, some kind of cubes, spheres, because humanity is a bit tired of digitalization, and they want to use digital tools talking to each other in real world, or talking to each other in the metaverse, but using physical tools that they can feel, that they can swap, and so on. So the phygital is the every successful Web3 project should have its own Web2 representation. So as we have started talking about Web2, the best business models are still there in Web2 because they are confirmed with time. So we predict that in the next 2 years, the Web3 startups will make a step back, look at the Web2 society, look at the Web2 business models, take the best, and then make the revitalization of Web3 using the best from the Web2 experience. Number 4 and number 5, they will come together. Intersections of the industries. In the creative tech, we already saw the trend where art tech is mixing with fashion, with music. You could hardly find a bare art or fashion startup now. So advertising plus media, TV plus music plus art plus design, architecture plus AI plus design, and so on. And in next years, we predict that there will be intersections between other industries besides creative tech, like creative tech and space. And the last thing I'd like to say about is the creative cities. The creative cities concept is known for 20 years, but after pandemic, young startups started concentrating around some specific regions, and investors also supported that, and universities started opening their campuses. So now we have the same creative city boom or creative hub boom. We have Miami, like it's a closed factory of the process from the idea to the exit. Idea, acceleration, startup, real business, exit. Starting from the university, we see that in Miami, we see that in Texas, in Austin, we see that in Brisbane, creative tech, community creative tech hub, Abu Dhabi, Lisbon, not Cape Town, Lagos. The creative tech communities will start concentrating around creative cities. The concept of globalization failed. The concept of creative cities will rule. And the last prediction is that it's half warning, half prediction, because a lot of brands during the NFT hype, during the Web3 hype, like Audemars Piguet and Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, family of the brands, Tiffany and others, they went to NFT market. They started issuing NFTs. They didn't believe in NFTs, but they wanted to get access to the Gen Z audience. Once the NFT market slightly dropped down, they just closed that direction of digital art implementation. A lot of artists, a lot of creative people lost their jobs, lost their contracts. So the good news is that 3 months ago, the so-called Our Consortium, consortium of 12 big brands like Adidas, Nike, Louis Vuitton, they made the first board meeting in 2 years. The question was, okay, what will be next? So there will be NFT 2.0 expansion soon. But the generation has changed. So we lost Gen Z, but the Gen Alpha now are mastering their power. They have access to the money. They earn something. They receive the money from their parents. But if we lost the communication with Gen Z, how can we be sure that we are ready to communicate with Gen Alpha? What kind of storytelling should we use? You should all be prepared that the generational shift has also, will also come in the next years.
Thank you, Denis. Very interesting. Let's maybe move to the question from the audience.
What's your selection process like? How do you even approach it?
Thank you for this question. We have a 5-stage selection process. First, we investigate as soon as we are publishing twice a year the report about all the startups. So in the first funnel, we just take all the startups from our research, which is more like than 1,000. Then we measure them more precisely, talking to them, understanding the psychological portraits of the founders, because in the end of the day, investors are investing in the founders, not in their startups, not in their products, because times and markets can change. A great founder is worth much more for an investor than a great idea, because an idea can be appointed to other startup, to other founders. Then we study the business plan, then we track the previous relations with previous investors, and then we dive deep into the financial model. We prepare it till the very end because it requires very expensive specialists. On the timeline, it takes from 6 to 18 months, because some investors, they even wait until the crisis comes to see how not flexible but how resistant the founders are in the face of the crisis. How can they reduce the costs, if they can reduce the costs? In the term investment relations, not investment is the key word, but relations. because we want to know more about the founders themselves, and it takes time.
Denis, thank you so much. It was great. Thank you, our audience.